Hey there, Leo. So this is your forecast for relationships and connections. So where do we start? This is a 2-week forecast taking you from Friday, the 28th of February, right the way through to the 14th of March, which is the day of the full moon in Virgo, the total lunar eclipse. Now, what I want to be focusing on with this particular forecast is like the state of your romantic partnerships and intimacy. You know, how can you get deeper into it? How can you find deeper trust? How can you bring back a sense of innocence and purity into your relationship? Friendships and social circles are also mentioned if I see markers for it, and also family dynamics. So this is a short but very focused forecast just for you. First thing that I really noticed, this is a chart for the actual new moon, and there is another chart that I might go to, which is like a week in in the second part of this particular waxing moon phase. But where I want to start is actually in this chart, the new moon phase. So the new moon is actually taking place in the 8th house. The 8th house is a house known for birth, life, and death, and all that's in between. You know, it's a place of transformation. It's also a place of where we have rites of passage. So, for instance, you know, are we moving into the next big thing that our life is ready for? You know, are we ready to take the next big step? I think of it in terms of partnerships. I think this house has a lot to do with the baggage, the psychological baggage that exists between partners. So it's quite psychological. It can absolutely show the expectations that people put on you in terms of how they think you should behave, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's an interesting house, that's for sure. So the new moon here, I think, is perfect if you wanted to put some kind of wish or intention out there to be able to find a deeper level of connection with those that you want to trust. You already do trust, but you know, those that you want a deeper connection with. It's a time to imagine that things can clear, and anything that is untowards between you both can just kind of melt away. It could be a really good time to get to the root cause of things. Now, this house for you is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is kind of triggering it a little bit. It's really encouraging the worst of it to come out. You know, it's kind of daring you, which is kind of helpful. And then, you know, at the time of the total lunar eclipse in Virgo, Jupiter is also kind of daring both the sun and the moon to kind of work together. You know, it's creating a sense of impatience. It's creating a sense of, we must do something about this. And this is the interesting thing, you know, and this is going to come up actually in the career focus for sure, because, you know, this new moon and the full moon are going to be falling in traditionally money and value houses. So it doesn't appear right off the bat to be something associated with love, but sex and our physical connection to our partners really comes up in this house. And so again, the new moon here, especially with this lovely connection, this lovely trine to Mars, and this trine between the sun and Mars is getting stronger and stronger up until the 8th, and then it's fading away. But essentially, the sun and Mars are working together beautifully. Now, Mars in your chart is really ruling the energies of home, and also the energies of adventure and expansion. And so it's interesting, you know, since December, the 6th of December, Mars was actually going retrograde, went right over the ascendant, went back into your 12th house. And then literally just a couple of days ago on the 24th of February, it started to go forwards again. And so anywhere where you've repressed your natural feeling of potency and power and courage and confidence, now you're starting to move forwards again, probably moving a lot, moving forwards quite quickly. It's almost like what's happened in the last couple of months has stalled your progress, but it's also given you time to really process what you want to be doing. It's been quite a challenging time, I would say. But anyway, I think things related to home are likely to get off to an interesting start. I think you're going to want to be transforming what's going on at home. And I just think this is getting things moving. And of course, the new moon in this kind of sexual part of the chart, and also a part of the chart where, we might harbor resentments and sort of baggage between us and our partners. The fact that these things are connected so beautifully to Mars, and Mars is direct. I think whatever has existed between you recently that has been stale and kind of rotten, it's got the chance to, like, if it's like a pimple, it's got the chance to kind of burst forth and erupt out and actually heal. So I think you're coming into a healing phase, and the physical connection can be in really, really healing. Now, in terms of partnerships as well, the 7th house is really, really vital. It really does describe our relationships and the kinds of partners we have. Now, one thing adding into the sort of predicament of baggage is the fact that Pluto has just come into your 7th house. And so Pluto brings a real intensity to all of your relationships, in particular with your partners. And you might have found that or thought that maybe they were being manipulative, or too powerful, or too controlling, that they're somehow trying to get in your way. Pluto is a real sort of source of power and control. So you may well have some misgivings in your relationships, feeling that there's an element of controlling you, and are you behaving? And of course, that doesn't really sow the seeds or create a path of enlightenment and joy and bliss together, does it? So I do think it's time to get to the bottom of whether they are trying to control you, and having some honest conversations. This part of your chart is also ruled by Saturn and both Uranus. Now, Saturn's also in a strong position. Saturn, in his trine to Mars, is really mindful of clearing the mess, opening up what's festered, and going in there, diving right in there to clear the path. And so I do think, Saturn's energies, especially with Mercury in a conjunction with Saturn right at the start of this is really encouraging a different way of communicating, that one that's more sane, practical, respectful. Anytime you blow up, which can happen, we've all had our emotions kind of capped with with Mars retrograde, but with Pluto here, it's very easy for things to blow up in your relationships right now. But anytime they blow up, it's important just to take a moment, recognize this isn't how you want to go about it, have a moment of pause, and then start again. Sometimes you might need to pause a bit longer. I've certainly been practicing this with my husband. It's not always like roses, not because we don't like each other or love each other, but because life is difficult. It's fast. It moves at an unrelenting pace. And when two people, especially if you've got a family as well, when two people are moving all the time and evolving all the time, you fall out of alignment, you fall back into alignment, and sometimes you have to do it fast, and you have to be quite effective. Now, Pluto's pulling a spanner in the works. So anywhere where you're feeling that your partner is controlling you, if you're able to kind of calmly take a step back from that and see it as information, and identify what it is that they're saying that makes you feel controlled, that makes you feel observed and manipulated, how can you communicate that information in a sort of grown-up way with no lack of ownership? You have to really own it, without any accusations, without anything that's inflaming. If you're able to calm down your language, and I think Saturn and Mercury and this new moon actually gives you the chance to do that, I think you'll be able to make headway with your partner. I think you'll be able to bring it into a place of rationality. Ultimately, Pluto, wherever he's moving in your chart, he is there to create a greater sense of freedom. I know it doesn't feel like it when Pluto goes somewhere. Initially it feels like everything you're trying to do to move forwards gets blocked, and it gets blocked again, and it gets blocked again. One thing I would say, wherever Pluto shows up, it shows where power exists as well. So something else that might be getting on your nerves a little bit is the fact that the people you are relating to you might perceive them as having more power than you. Therefore, if you were to follow that sequence through, you might see that they're more potent, they might be more powerful. You might make that mean that you're not that effective or you're not that powerful. Again, that's where it's important to be able to talk calmly. And anywhere where you see that, if it's possible to share and say, look, right now I feel quite weak. Right now I don't feel like I'm in my own power. And I feel like you're usurping my power. All of a sudden, the conversation can start afresh and new. Pluto's going to be in this part of your chart for the next 19 years. So, I mean, you'll get loads of chance to practice this. But what I would advise is anywhere you can recognize your own feelings of impotence, your own feelings of powerlessness, and yet not feel offended by everyone else that is empowered. Truthfully, it doesn't matter if they're empowered or not. The seventh house really shows the mirror to what you don't see in yourself. So this is a challenge. This is why your partners are showing up as powerful right now, because they're showing you what you can't see in yourself. It's not to say you don't have it. It's just you're not identifying with your own power. So really, this whole thing is to connect you back up to your own power. So funnily enough, you're better off if you're in the relationships, even if they feel like they're controlling you, even if they feel like they're triggering you. They will help you become powerful more quickly if you can only recognize that your own sense of powerlessness is also adding into the problem. Now, as the sun moves closer and closer to Saturn and Mercury, again, the seriousness of your relationships, how seriously you are, like your earnestness in clearing the space, clearing any kind of mess, any kind of misunderstanding, it will absolutely create change. And anyone that's worth being in your life will stick around, so I do think this is a really beautiful momentum. This is working very deeply because Mars is working through the 12th house. So it's likely to bring up hidden resentments and hidden self-sabotage. Hopefully you've got a sensitive partner around you that can identify that and help you. Now, this is all kind of about the psychological aspects. And, I think it would be helpful also to know that there are other potentials coming up. Venus going retrograde. Yeah. She's, if it's not one thing, it's another, like Mars is going retrograde and now Venus is about to go retrograde on the 2nd. She's in an adventurous part of the chart, but she's going back into this psychological area for a bit of ruckus. I think she's actually going to smooth the way from her new perspective of adventure and expansion in the 9th and that curiosity for something much greater for life. I think she's filled you with ideas that life can be great, love can be great, and that actually you're aspiring for a much higher vibration relationship. And so as she's going retrograde, really, she's bringing the grace of expansion back into the situation. So even if it feels like you're looking over your relationships right now with a critical eye, just recognize that what's underneath it is this desire to connect in a really beautiful and powerful and soulful way. She's going to come back. She's going to connect with this powerful Neptune and North Node conjunction. She's also en route going to be connecting with Mercury, really enhancing communication between you. So it is going to be okay. But it might feel like we've got a bit of turbulence as the plane is maybe coming into land. And it's not really coming into land until the 13th when she goes direct again. When Venus has gone direct, we will have gone through all of the personal retrogrades of the beginning of 2025. And boy, will you feel that sense of relief. I do think life is going to pick up pace mid-April after this time. And again, when Pluto and Mars have had their final opposition on the 27th of April. Now, that is something, I think I'll probably mention it in next time's reading in 2 weeks' time. But Mars and Pluto in their opposition right over your ascendant and descendant is also adding in a bit more tension with your relationships. I'll give more structured advice next time, but anywhere where you felt the tension between you and your partners around the 3rd of November and the 3rd of January, allow yourself to remember what you were learning. Like, what was the challenge? How did you resolve it? And how did you feel a few days later? Just remember it, maybe journal it, because around the 27th of April, there's a kind of similar theme. But like I said, I will come back to that. There will definitely be an episode about that. Anyway, finally, I want to leave this on, like an even stronger note. So let's mention, family. I think things are resolving there at quite a psychological level as Mars is moving forwards and Pluto's here. There are some definite big transformations. So everything I shared about your partners, I think, is also transferable to your family. But in terms of your friendships and social circles, with Jupiter here, anytime things get a bit dark, there are always lots of distractions in the form of friends of friends, networks, anyone that's kind of pulling you out into an altered space. I know it's annoying as hell for your relatives and your partners. It feels like you're really focused and then off you go. But actually, it's a real relief for you. It's like a release mechanism so that you can let off your energy and feel some joy in what can sometimes feel a little bit oppressive and heavy. You will get through this. And as you are enjoying your kind of pressure release times, I think that's bringing the vitality back into your body, because also this part of your chart, the 5th house about sexy fun, is ruled by Jupiter. So you do need to release some tension so that you can enjoy yourself more when you're with your actual partner. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there as a little bit of a taster about your relationships. I hope you found that useful. Have a great 2-week period and catch you very soon with another forecast. Lots of love.